When my son told me that I would not be welcome at his house for Christmas, I smiled, got in my car, and made one call. By the new year, their mortgage payments were canceled. And that was just the beginning of my plan. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? I still remember that December evening, the smell of cinnamon candles, the faint hum of carols from the expensive sound system, and my son Michael sitting across from me, his wedding ring catching the glow of the Christmas tree. I'd brought a pie, homemade, the same recipe his mother used to bake when he was little. I could make my famous turkey this year, I said, settling into his leather couch, the one I helped him pick out last spring. You know, the one your mom loved. Michael shifted in his seat. His wife Isabella didn't even look up from her phone. Then he said it, the words that burned through the holiday warmth like frostbite. Dad, unfortunately, you won't be welcome here for Christmas. For a second, I thought I misheard. What do you mean? He looked down at the marble coffee table, another item I'd paid for, when Isabella decided their old one wasn't sophisticated enough. Isabella's parents are coming, he said quietly, and they'd prefer if you weren't here. They'd prefer that phrase. I stared around the room, silk curtains I'd bought, hardwood floors from my second mortgage, the crown molding I'd maxed my credit card for. My fingerprints were on every inch of that house. Easier this way, he added. You know how her family is about traditions. My throat tightened. And what way is that, Michael? He didn't answer. Isabella finally looked up, her tone sweet but sharp. It's just different this year. We're doing something more elegant. I stood slowly, my knees aching from years of construction work. I see. Then I won't make it harder. I walked past the KitchenAid mixer, another gift she'd needed, and out the door. The cold air bit my face, but it didn't sting as much as their rejection. Driving back to my trailer, I realized something. They'd built their dream life on the back of my sacrifices, and now they were ashamed of me. But shame works both ways, because the very next morning, when I opened the mailbox and saw the mortgage payment receipt from the bank, the one still under my name, an idea took root. They thought I was just the old man in the trailer. But soon they'd learn who really owned their mansion. As I sat at my small table that night, the glow of my single lamp reflected off the framed photo of Michael as a boy smiling with his first baseball glove. I traced the glass with my finger. You'll learn, son, I whispered. You'll learn what pride costs. The phone rang. It was Linda, my late wife's sister. Are you okay, Henry? Heard about Christmas plans? I'm fine, I said, watching the snow fall through my trailer window. Just planning a little project. She chuckled. Knowing you, that's never a small thing. She was right. It wouldn't be small at all. Because when the realtor called 3 days later asking if I wanted to renew the deed arrangement under my company's name, my smile returned. Let's just say the paperwork I signed next made sure the house my son flaunted didn't really belong to him anymore. And that was just step one. 3 days after that cold December night, I walked into the realtor's office, the same one that had handled the purchase of Michael's so-called dream home. I still remembered the day I'd signed the papers, standing beside him as he held Isabella's hand, promising to make me proud. He didn't know that I'd quietly bought the land myself, then registered the house under my small contracting company. I told him it was a technical formality, easier for construction and taxes. He never asked again. So when the realtor looked up from his desk that morning, his surprise was almost comical. Mr. Turner, it's been a while. How's the property treating your family? Family, I smiled. You mean the tenants? His eyebrows lifted. Tenants. I slid the folder across the desk, the title deed and payment receipts. As of this morning, I said, the agreement is terminated. I'll be reclaiming ownership effective January 1st. The man blinked. But your son hasn't made a single payment himself. I cut in. Every dollar came from my account. I think it's time that house reminded them who built it. He hesitated. You sure you want to do this? It'll cause trouble, I finished. Son, trouble started the day they forgot where they came from. That week, I spent Christmas Eve alone in my trailer. The heater wheezed against the cold, and the pine-scented candle flickered on the small table beside me. Outside, Laughter echoed faintly from a nearby campground. Families toasting marshmallows, kids chasing each other in the snow. I remembered Michael's first Christmas after his mother died. How he'd crawled into my bed and whispered, "Dad, promise you'll never leave." Promises. They mean nothing when people forget who you are. But I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. I was focused. Because the very next morning, Isabella's voice message came through. "Hi, Henry. Just letting you know we'll be out of town for the holidays. Aspen, of course. Don't worry about checking in. Oh, and the gardener said he'll handle the lawn." I chuckled softly. The gardener, the man they hired to maintain the house I owned. Perfect. That meant I'd have the place to myself. When the realtor came by with the new documents, when the SUV finally rolled out of their gated driveway, I waited 15 minutes before pulling up. The mansion loomed in front of me, their pride, their palace. The marble driveway I'd poured myself glistened under the morning frost. I walked through the gate like a ghost returning home. Inside, it smelled of money and artificial vanilla. Everywhere I looked, I saw echoes of my labor. The staircase I'd designed, the kitchen island I'd installed, the windows I'd hand-measured. Yet every trace of me had been erased. Not a single photo, not even one of Michael as a child. Just curated perfection. In the living room, their massive 12-foot Christmas tree still stood. Glittering ornaments, silver ribbons, and a mountain of gifts beneath it. One label caught my eye. "To Dad, from Isabella." I picked it up. Inside was a brand new pair of driving gloves. Expensive, thoughtful, but not for me, her father. Not me. That night, as the realtor joined me, by the marble counter, I signed the final page of the ownership transfer. He slid the papers into a crisp folder. "Everything's official, Mr. Turner. As of January 1st, the mansion and the surrounding property will revert fully to your company. Your son and daughter-in-law are listed as occupants, not owners." "Perfect," I said. "Let's make sure they find that out the right way." The realtor smirked, understanding instantly. "You'd like me to handle the conversation?" I nodded. "After the holidays. Let them enjoy one last toast before reality hits." As he left, I turned off the lights one by one, my footsteps echoing through the grand hallways. In the silence, I whispered to the house itself, the walls, the beams, the foundation that had known my sweat. "You're coming home," I said softly. Then I closed the door behind me. A week later, Michael called. "Dad," his voice said through the receiver, cautious. "You didn't send any money this month. The bank called about a payment." "I didn't?" I said mildly. "Must have slipped my mind." "Well, could you fix it today? They said it's urgent. We can't have this affecting our credit." "You mean the credit on the house I own?" Silence. Then, "What are you talking about?" I smiled into the phone. "You'll see soon enough, son. You and your wife might want to be home on Tuesday morning." The realtor's stopping by. He tried to sound calm, but I could hear the tremor under his breath. "Dad, you're scaring me. What are you planning?" "Nothing," I said. "Just a little housekeeping." When I hung up, I poured myself a cup of coffee, the old trailer creaking in the wind. The bitterness of the brew matched the satisfaction curling inside me. Tuesday would come soon enough. And when it did, they'd learn the truth about their mansion, and about the man they mocked for living in a trailer. Tuesday morning dawned clear and cold. The frost on the mansion's windows caught the sunrise, like tiny crystals, beautiful, fleeting, and brittle. I parked my old pickup a few houses down, sipping from a thermos of coffee, as the realtor's black sedan rolled through the gate. From my seat, I had a perfect view of the driveway. Michael's Tesla was parked beside Isabella's Range Rover. I smiled faintly. My son had always liked shiny toys, even when he couldn't afford them. The realtor, Mr. Clarkson, stepped out in his crisp gray suit and walked up the steps with his briefcase. Exactly 9:02 a.m., just as planned. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and waited. Inside the mansion, Michael and Isabella were at breakfast when the doorbell rang. Michael, still half asleep, opened it. "Mr. Clarkson, is something wrong?" Clarkson's professional smile didn't waver. "Morning, Mr. Turner. I'm here on behalf of Turner Construction." "Turner Construction?" Isabella repeated, brows knitting. "That's your father's company, isn't it?" Michael frowned. "Yeah, but Why would his company send you? Clarkson gestured politely toward the living room. If I could have a few minutes of your time. They led him inside, to the same couch where I'd once been told I wasn't welcome. He opened his briefcase, laid the documents neatly on the marble coffee table, and adjusted his glasses. I'll keep this brief. As of January 1st, Turner Construction has terminated its lease-to-own agreement on this property. Effective immediately, the title has reverted to the company's owner. Michael blinked. Lease-to-own? This is our home. Clarkson met his gaze evenly. Technically, no. The house was purchased under Turner Construction for tax purposes and held under company ownership. Mr. Turner simply allowed you to reside here under a private family agreement. The color drained from Isabella's face. You're saying this house isn't ours? I'm saying, Clarkson said, flipping the page, that as of this morning, the property no longer belongs to you. Michael's hand shot to his hair, his voice cracking. There must be some mistake. My dad wouldn't. I assure you, Clarkson interrupted smoothly. There's no mistake. Mr. Turner signed the reversion papers personally. For a moment. Silence. Then Isabella exploded. So this trailer living man owns our home. Clarkson raised an eyebrow. Trailer living man, Michael stammered. She didn't mean. Oh, I meant every word, she snapped. He sits in that rusty box pretending to be some hero. And now he's taking back our mansion? Clarkson's professional composure finally cracked into something resembling amusement. Mrs. Turner, you might find it enlightening to know that your father-in-law's rusty box is temporary housing on a private property portfolio, worth several $1 million, including this mansion. Isabella's jaw dropped. What? Turner Construction, Clarkson continued, is not just a contracting business, it's a property development company with assets across the state. This home was one of 12 he financed. Your husband's name has never been on the deed. Michael stared blankly at the papers. But he said it was a gift. A gift, Clarkson said, with strings you never bothered to read. I didn't need to see their faces to imagine the scene. The same living room where they'd served champagne to Isabella's parents, now filled with panic instead of pride. From my truck, I watched the blinds shift, a silhouette pacing, another throwing her hands up. I could almost hear their raised voices through the glass. A few minutes later, the front door burst open. Michael stumbled out, jacket half on, phone pressed to his ear. He called me 3 times. I let it ring. Then a text appeared. Dad, please, call me. We need to talk. I took another sip of coffee and waited. Some lessons shouldn't be rushed. That evening, I finally picked up. Dad, Michael began, his voice shaky. Why would you do this? We had everything under control. Under control, I said quietly. You told me not to come for Christmas, Michael. You said your wife's parents preferred I stay away. You told me it was easier that way. He hesitated. Dad, that was, Isabella didn't mean to call me a burden? Didn't mean to pretend this house was yours? Silence. Then, a faint choke in his voice. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't think you'd actually. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I softened my tone, just slightly. Michael, I gave you everything I had, but what you and Isabella never understood is that respect can't be bought with marble floors or fancy curtains. It's earned. I get it now, he said weakly. Please, can we fix this? You can start by learning what home really means. Then I hung up. Later that night, I sat outside the trailer under a sky full of stars. The quiet hum of the nearby highway faded into the distance. For the first time in years, I felt peace, not revenge, not triumph, but peace. Still, I knew this wasn't over. Because pride, once wounded, doesn't heal quietly. And Isabella? She wasn't the type to take humiliation sitting down. 2 days passed before I heard from them again. 2 quiet, beautiful days, where the world didn't demand anything of me. No phone calls, no guilt, no expectations. But peace never lasts long when arrogance is wounded. By Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Not with a call this time, but a notification from the local news feed. Prominent real estate couple involved in legal dispute over ownership of luxury property. And right beneath the headline, there they were. Michael and Isabella Turner, photographed outside the county records office, looking like the world had ended. Isabella's designer sunglasses couldn't hide the fury in her expression. Michael's hand rested on her shoulder, but his face carried the kind of panic only money trouble can bring. I chuckled softly. The universe didn't waste time. That evening, the phone finally rang again. This time, it wasn't my son. It was the realtor. "Mr. Turner," Clarkson said, his voice trembling with suppressed laughter. "You might want to know Mr. Turner tried to file an ownership complaint this afternoon." "I figured she would," I said. "How did it go?" "Well, she marched in demanding to see the county assessor, waving what she called proof of purchase." I laughed. "You mean the fake receipt she made me email for her taxes?" "Exactly those. When she realized the deeds were all under Turner Construction, she lost it. Claimed you'd tricked them, and the assessor politely reminded her that it's perfectly legal to transfer ownership when all funds came from your business account." "Let me guess," I said. "She didn't take that well." There was a pause. Clarkson finally exhaled, chuckling. "She accused her husband of being complicit, right there, in front of the county clerk." I closed my eyes, letting the satisfaction wash over me. For a woman obsessed with appearances, public embarrassment was her worst punishment. But the next day, things went from satisfying to poetic. The realtor's secretary called me that morning. "Mr. Turner, you might want to come by. There's someone here asking about the mansion's listing." I knew instantly it had to be Isabella. When I arrived, she was sitting in the lobby, legs crossed, red heels tapping impatiently. The same heels she'd worn the first day she visited that mansion, bragging to her parents that her husband's success had bought it. "Mr. Turner," she said when she saw me, her smile sharp as glass, "we need to talk." "About what?" I asked. Her tone turned honey-sweet. "You've made your point, but think about how this looks to people. A father taking his son's home? The press loves stories like that. You wouldn't want to tarnish your reputation, would you?" I stared at her for a long moment. Then I smiled. "My reputation or yours?" Her confidence wavered, just slightly. "Listen," she continued quickly. "Michael's been under a lot of stress." I pushed him to say those things. "You know how I get when I'm angry. We were wrong. But you could make this right by transferring the house back to us." I leaned against the counter, pretending to consider it. "So you can host your fancy brunches again?" Her eyes narrowed. "Don't mock me, Henry. You live in a trailer." I stepped closer, my voice quiet but steady. "And yet, I own the land under your mansion. Tell me, Isabella, which one of us really has less?" She froze. The realtor, standing nearby, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Turner, perhaps you didn't understand. Your father-in-law isn't just the property owner. He's the senior partner in the development group that manages your entire neighborhood." "What?" she whispered. Clarkson handed her a document. "Every home in the Silver Ridge Estates development sits on land leased through Turner Construction, including the one next door. Technically, you're paying rent to his company." Her face drained of color. "That can't be true." "Oh, it's true," I said softly. "I built this community from the ground up. Your in-laws' mansion, your friends' homes, they all sit on my foundation." She sank into the lobby chair, speechless for once. That night, I got another call from Michael. "Dad," he said quietly, "Isabella. She's been crying all evening. I've never seen her like this." "She'll be fine," I said. "Pride's like plaster, cracks when it dries too fast." He sighed. "She said some awful things about you, about us. But she's scared now. We could lose everything." "You already did," I said, "the moment you forgot who gave it to you." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Michael's voice broke, small and trembling. "Dad, can we come by, to the trailer?" That surprised me. "You sure she'll come?" "She wants to talk," she said. "She owes you an apology." When their car pulled up the next evening, I watched from my porch. The mansion kids looked out of place against the humble gravel road. Isabella in her city coat, Michael clutching a bottle of wine like a peace offering. They hesitated before stepping inside. The air smelled faintly of pine and old wood. I'd cleaned, set out tea, even opened a window. "Nice place," Michael murmured. "Not much," I said, "but it's paid for." Isabella managed a weak smile. "Mr. Turner, I wanted to say I'm sorry. For calling me a burden? I asked gently. For forgetting where we came from? I nodded slowly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Still, something in her eyes told me she hadn't fully learned her lesson yet. Pride dies hard, and hers wasn't finished fighting. The evening they came to my trailer was colder than usual. Wind pressed against the thin walls, making them creak like old bones. Inside, the space was warm, filled with the scent of chamomile tea and quiet tension. Michael sat across from me at the small kitchen table, the same one he'd eaten breakfast at when he was 6, legs too short to touch the floor. Now he sat hunched, shoulders heavy with guilt. Beside him, Isabella stared at the steam curling from her cup, her diamond bracelet glittering. In the lamplight, a last desperate symbol of a life she could feel slipping away. She finally spoke. "Mr. Turner, I mean Henry, we never meant to hurt you." I said nothing. She swallowed hard. "I thought we were building something better. A future, you know. One with status, security." I looked her in the eye. "And you thought stepping on people gave you that." Her lips parted, but no words came. Michael reached for her hand. "Dad, please. We know we messed up. We just want to make it right." "Make it right," I repeated quietly, studying their faces. The fear, the shame, the faint hope that I might just erase everything with a signature. "Tell me, son, what did you learn?" He hesitated. "That money doesn't make you better. That the people who stand by you are what really matter."
"Good," I said, "because I'm not finished teaching."
The next morning, I called Clarkson. "Let's go ahead and deliver the final documents." By noon, we were parked outside the mansion again. Michael and Isabella stood at the doorway like children waiting to see if Santa would forgive them. Clarkson handed me a thick envelope. "Everything's ready, sir." I motioned for Michael to open it. Inside were 2 sets of papers. One marked termination, the other transfer of ownership. Michael's hands trembled as he read. "Dad, this says the house has been sold." Isabella's eyes widened. "Sold? To who?" I nodded to Clarkson. He handed her the second sheet. Her voice cracked as she read aloud. "Turner Family Charitable Trust, Affordable Housing Fund." She blinked. You donated it?" I smiled faintly. "Every brick, every window. That mansion's going to house 7 families next month. Veterans, single mothers, people who need what you took for granted." Michael stared at me like he couldn't breathe. "Dad, that was our home." "No, son," I said softly. "That was my home. You just lived in it." Isabella took a step forward, anger flaring again. "So you're homeless out of spite?" "Spite?" I raised an eyebrow. "No, justice. You mocked me for living in a trailer, but I've never slept better in my life. You had a mansion and never felt peace for a single day." Michael buried his face in his hands. "I can't believe this." I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small folded document. "One last surprise. You might want to look at this before you start feeling too sorry for yourselves." He unfolded it. A deed, but not for the mansion, for a small 2-bedroom cottage on the outskirts of town. The same place his mother and I once dreamed of retiring. "You bought this," Michael whispered. "I built it, years ago. It's modest, but it's yours, if you can promise to treat it like a home, not a trophy." Isabella blinked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why would you do that, after everything we said?" "Because your mother would have wanted me to," I said quietly. She believed in second chances, even when I didn't. The silence that followed was heavy, but not cold this time. Michael wiped his eyes. "I don't deserve this, Dad." "No," I said gently, "but maybe you can learn to." A week later, the moving trucks came. I stood at the edge of the driveway as families from the city arrived. Tired faces, small hands clutching toys, eyes wide with disbelief. They walked into the mansion as if entering heaven itself. One woman, a young widow with 2 children, turned to me and whispered, "God bless you, sir." I smiled. "Just call me Henry." Behind me, Michael stood quietly. "You're really doing it," he said softly. "I already did." He nodded slowly. "I think Mom would have been proud." "She would have been," I said. "But she'd still tell you to mow the lawn." He laughed through his tears. It was the first time I'd heard that sound in years. Months passed. I stayed in my trailer by choice, not necessity. Michael and Isabella visited often, helping repair the roof, bringing groceries, even inviting the new mansion families to dinner at their little cottage. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Isabella came out onto my porch holding a plate of pie. She looked nervous. "I used your wife's recipe. Linda gave it to me." I took a bite. It wasn't perfect, the crust too thick, the sugar too heavy, but it was made with effort. That mattered more. She looked at me, eyes glistening. "You were right. A home isn't about marble floors. It's about the people you're willing to share it with." I nodded slowly. "Now you're learning." As the sky turned gold, I thought about how everything had come full circle. The house they mocked me for losing had built something far greater. Humility, gratitude, family. And me, I didn't need revenge anymore. I had peace.